10 animals were sent into space. The first human in space was Yuri Gagarin of the Soviet Union on April 12, 1961. He wasn't the first animal to leave the atmosphere of Earth either. Humanity has enjoyed a long legacy of mounting rockets on animals and launching them into space for the past century. Some of them were destined for recovery, while others were never meant to return to Earth. 10 cats. Compared to other animals, house cats were a little bit late to the space party. On October 18, 1963, France launched the first cat into space. There's debate over whether it was a stray named Felix or his female counterpart, Felicette. The trip for Felix, or Felicette, went smoothly, but a repeat flight a week later meant disaster for the poor cat. In the first several months of 2014, the Iranian government, which has just started to broaden its views towards space, plans to launch a Persian cat into orbit. 9 rodents. Mice, rats, hamsters, and guinea pigs have all been launched into space throughout the years. Rodents have been used in a number of space projects. In 2001, osteoprotegerin was tested on mice by biomedical engineer Ted Bateman in collaboration with NASA and the biotech company Amgen. Since space travel speeds up aging, it was the ideal setting for the study. They thought the protein would be helpful in reversing bone loss brought on by aging. The protein did indeed work, and further research may significantly contribute to the future prevention of bone illnesses like osteoporosis. Jeffrey Alberts, an Indiana University psychology professor, carried out another experiment using rats. He was able to see the behavior of animals that had never encountered the restrictions of gravity, which demonstrated a far more sophisticated range of movement by submitting pregnant rats to zero-gravity circumstances and monitoring their progeny. 8 fish. The Japanese supply ship HTV-3 docked with the International Space Station in 2012. They had a Medaka aquarium on board that was stocked with fish. The fish, chosen for this experimentation because of their rapid reproduction and translucent skin, underwent a number of tests. This made it simple for the scientists to see the organs. They were examined for muscular atrophy and bone deterioration, much like other animals. The fish act strangely in microgravity despite being in water because they swim in loops rather than straight lines. 7 chimpanzees. Chimpanzees have made a priceless contribution to the space program as the closest living relatives of humans. Ham, a wild ape captured in Cameroon in 1959, became the first chimpanzee in space. At Holloman Air Force Base, he received harsh training using a system of positive and negative reinforcement. Ham would receive a banana pellet if he complied with his trainer's requests. When he disobeyed orders, he was given a slight electric shock. On January 31, 1961, Mercury Redstone 2, Ham's test flight, launched from Cape Canaveral in Florida. Even though the voyage had a number of failures, Ham handled them successfully and was protected by his spacesuit. He would later reside at the North Carolina Zoo and the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. He passed away at age 26. Enos, a more skilled animal that went on to complete 2 orbits of the planet, succeeded Ham. He came back to life and was overjoyed to meet his friends, who were now people. Unfortunately, his tale had a depressing conclusion. About 11 months later, Enos passed away from dysentery, which was probably unrelated to his space travel. 6 monkeys. Squirrel monkeys, macaques, and rhesus monkeys are a few of the types of primates that have been sent into space. The rhesus monkey, which is highly intelligent and is renowned for its contributions to medical research, held the distinction of being the first primate to be cloned. After his predecessor, Albert, met a tragic end when he suffocated during a flight, Albert II, a rhesus monkey, became the first primate in space. The next 4 generations of Alberts, 3, 4, V, and 6, also passed away. Albert Ford died a couple of hours after his return to Earth. Other countries, including Argentina, France, and Russia, have also sent monkeys into space. Unfortunately, a large number of them perished. 5 amphibians. Scientists have traditionally utilized amphibians like frogs, toads, and newts to assess the health of an ecosystem. Due to their dual habitats on land and in the water, amphibians are almost always the first to perish from even the most modest changes, such as climatic change, pollution, and the spread of disease. Numerous frogs have been sent into space, and at least one of them was unfortunate enough to be caught in the, probably fatal, crossfire of a trip he wasn't even allowed to board. With an airborne frog in the background, images of NASA's Minotaur V rocket taking off in Virginia grabbed headlines. The first space mission that Iberian ribbed newts participated in was the USSR's Bayan 7 mission in 1985. The potential impact of the space environment on the newt's capacity for regeneration piqued the interest of scientists. 4 nematodes. Nematodes, or roundworms, are mostly parasitic. They cause trichinosis sickness and infest our pet dogs as heartworms, and rarely elicit sympathy, even from animal lovers who are otherwise devoted to the cause. They've also traveled to space on numerous occasions, and they went to the moon with Apollo 16 as well. The Space Shuttle Columbia exploded upon re-entering the atmosphere in 2003. The 7 astronauts on board died, but not all were lost. Despite overwhelming odds, the worms in a locker that contained a nematode experiment were found in the rubble. These worms demonstrated that the effects of spaceflight on their species were similar to those experienced by humans, such as muscular atrophy and diabetes symptoms. 3 water bears. How harsh an environment space may be is nearly beyond comprehension. A near vacuum devoid of oxygen, alternately scorching hot and icy cold, and with enough radiation to melt your bones. A human could only stay conscious for a short while without the protection of a spacesuit. However, falling asleep would be merciful since you wouldn't be awake to feel your body suffocate from cold or your lungs swell under the strain of your final breath. The toughest animals on Earth, water bears, can endure conditions that would kill practically any other living thing. Water bears resemble small, bloated caterpillars and seem almost impervious to harm. The water bear may survive for years without eating or drinking in conditions that are both extremely hot and virtually below zero when it enters a stasis, where its biological functions almost completely shut down. On the European Space Agency's Photon M3 mission in 2007, over 3,000 of these animals were captured, and it was demonstrated that they could resist the vacuum of space. 2 spiders. Spiders have been the focus of a few space initiatives despite being among the most despised and feared animals on Earth. Gladys and Esmeralda, 2 golden orb spiders that were kept on the International Space Station in 2011, hunted and wove webs while in microgravity. The use of the golden orb was due to its propensity to destroy its web each night and create a new one. This would allow the scientists to study more web constructions, if nothing else. Nefertiti, the jumping spider, also resided on the ISS in 2011. She opted to pounce on her prey rather than spin a web. Her hunting style seems to be unaffected by zero gravity. On her return to Earth, Nefertiti was placed in the Bug Zoo at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History. 1 dogs. The USSR has a reputation for launching numerous canines into space. The dogs were actually stray mutts, chosen by the scientists because they thought they would have a stronger constitution than lab animals or house pets. It would be natural to assume that the Soviets utilized purebred, laboratory-raised specimens, but this is not the case. Canines were chosen because they are simple to teach and are peaceful in small quarters. Since it was simpler to create a spacesuit to collect feces from females, only female canines were utilized. Laika, a stray discovered on the streets of Moscow, was the most well-known space dog. Laika was the first animal to enter space and was launched aboard Sputnik 2 as a suicide mission. Laika was never expected to live, unlike the majority of the creatures that were launched into space. To save her from the horrible fate of starving to death, they would serve her a meal of poisoned food after a certain number of days. Laika's vital signs stopped between 5 and 7 hours after launch because the craft became overheated. 2 dogs named Belka and Strelka were the first animals to make it through an orbital journey in 1960. Next year, Strelka gave birth to puppies. Nikita Khrushchev, the Soviet leader, donated one of the puppies, Pashinka, as a gift to Caroline Kennedy, the daughter of John F. Kennedy. Kennedy's Welsh Terrier, Charlie, and Pashinka later had their own litter, which JFK jokingly referred to as pupniks. That's for now. We appreciate you for being here. View more our channel videos.